Hey, what's up, everybody? Chris Blair here, and I've got some really exciting news to share with you. The Listening Room is going on the road in just about 2 months. February 8th through the 13th, we're going to be heading out of Miami, going to the Bahamas on the Norwegian Gym cruise. We've got huge acts like Big and Rich, Gretchen Wilson, Craig Morgan, Jody Messina, and many more. We're also doing Listening Room Writers Rounds with writers like Kelly Archer, Phil Barton, Krista Stefano, Liz Rose, Brett James, and me. I'll be playing a couple songs. It's going to be a lot of fun, and speaking of fun, there's going to be some really cool things to do on the boat as far as activities go, like belly flop contests, silent disco, trivia, line dancing, whiskey tastings. It's going to be an absolute blast. So come see the shows, get exclusive merch, and watch us do this podcast live. Just come hang out with us. Tickets and information you can find at bootsonthewatercruise.com. That's bootsonthewatercruise.com. Get your tickets today, and I hope to see you there. You're listening to Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. For more information, you can find us on Instagram and TikTok at SBTSongs, or check us out at chrisblair.com. What's up, everybody? This week on the podcast, I've got Kassi Ashton. It was so great to sit down with her. We're going to talk about how life was growing up, and she graduated from Belmont University right here in Nashville. We talk about everything that happened since then. You may know her from being out on the road with Old Dominion, Jamie Johnson, and then this year she is hitting the road with John Party. So make sure that you check out a show. We're going to talk about all of that, including her debut album that just came out not too long ago, Made from the Dirt. It was so great. Hope you enjoy it. Let's get to it. Here is Kassi Ashton. All right, welcome back, everybody. My name is Chris Blair, and I am here at the Listening Room. Kassi Ashton, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks for coming in this morning.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. You've got a lot of exciting things going on right now.
Thank you.
I can't wait to dive in and talk about all of that. Like always, let's start from the beginning. Tell me about life growing up. How did you get into music, figure out that you wanted to do this, and then bring me to Nashville?
So I always joke that when I popped into the world and they pinched my foot to make sure I cried and had vocal cords, they put a spotlight on my face and a microphone to my mouth because I don't know if I saw it on TV. I don't know if my mom told me, if it was just like in my brain as I became a thinking creature on the planet. My mom is from Nashville originally and sings. My older sister sings. It's like in that bloodline. And then I guess I was just like, the next in line. And so at mom's house, I did classical ballet, competitive dance, any stage she could put me on for singing, whether it was a gooseneck trailer or a beauty pageant stage or whatever. I was just performing from maybe like age 4 all the way till the time I graduated high school. And then at dad's house, I grew up in the country and could only sing in the field because he didn't want me to sing in the house because it was too loud. And did all the country boy stuff that he thought I should do because I'm a boy. And it just was a natural thing for me. I've never, ever, ever wanted to do anything else.
Yeah. So when did you move here then?
So as soon as I graduated high school, as fast as I could. Okay. I wasn't going to go to college at all. Yeah. Because I was like, for what? I'm just going to move to Nashville and sing wherever I can be. And my grandma, who I don't think even graduated high school, was like, you have to go to college. And I was like, for what? And my mom was like, well, what about Belmont? Knowing, of the college because she's from here. And I was like, great, sign me up. I did not know that it was expensive. I did not know that it was a private school. I knew none of those things. I was like, oh, you sing there? Great. I'm going. Yeah. And so I got a scholarship to go, thank goodness, because my dad saw the price and was like, no way. Absolutely not. And I moved into my dorm and they confiscated all my alcohol paraphernalia because it was a Christian school and I wasn't allowed to have that. and I went to Belmont for Bachelor of Music, so voice, and then a minor in music business. Yeah. And then my best friend in college, specifically junior and senior year, Emily Landis, you guys have had her on the podcast before. She's a songwriter. She convinced me our senior year to do country showcase at Belmont, which is a big university-wide showcase. Anybody can try out. The judging panel are like real life industry professionals. And I was like, for what? No one ever gets anything out of that. She's like, you will if you do it. So we wrote some songs like quickly because you had to do some originals, and I won Country Showcase and got a bunch of publishing offers through, you know, that networking circle, and then did Best of the Best and signed my record deal a year later. So thank God for my grandma making me go to Belmont and for Emily Landis for telling me to do the loophole.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what was that like then after you won that and you're starting to have meetings? You're at Crave Nation, right?
Yes.
And you have been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is also kind of unique.
Yeah.
So
they are my family. Like, I remember when my deal was up and it was time for a new one, we didn't even really like talk about it. Beth and I were just kind of like, yeah, just repeat the last one. We don't care. Like, we're like telling the lawyers, they're like, hey, we need to fill out, you know, this new contract. We're like, we don't care. Just copy and paste the first one. Like, I'm literally with my family over there. There's no one that I would trust more in my musical life, but also just in my life in general. Back when I got my first call, I will never forget. I was in class, and one of the people that was on the country music showcase like panel of judges was Laurel Kittleson, and at the time she was at Big Machine Publishing. And she texted me and was like, hey, will you call me? So I walked out of class. I was like, bye. And I called and she goes, hey, I'd like to have dinner, like talk about like a deal. And I started bawling. I was in the courtyard between the two music buildings, freaking out. Like, I worked downtown at Lonnie's Karaoke, like had no money. My boss had paid for a new transmission in my car because I couldn't afford it. And I just flipped. And within like a month, I had multiple publishing offers, and I had to find a lawyer, and my life just flipped.
Yeah. And
Creative Nation was always the choice. Always.
Yeah. So when you signed there, Beth and I were going through leadership music together, and we were part of the 2017 graduating class.
Yeah.
I became really good friends with her, and I mean, I can see how it's family because they are just great people.
The best.
Yeah.
But also, like, obviously, we love family. We love somewhere we feel comfortable. But on the business side, there's some bad mofos. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Beth Laird, in my brain, if Beth can't do it, nobody can. Like, she's just so attentive and intelligent, and she's hungry. And I'm the same way. It's kind of like, no, this is a business. We're going to get it done. And then Luke is like one of the first songwriter producers that I memorized in my head when I moved to Nashville, because his discography and what he was working on was impressive to me. It wasn't just hits. It wasn't just what made the money. It was like actual cool stuff. Like, I remember looking up who the producers were. It was one of the first times I'd ever done it in my life, of the Same Trailer, Different Park album by Kassi, because I thought, this sounds so cool. What is this? And it was Luke. And then when I walked in Creative Nation for the first time and I met them, it felt like I was walking into their home. They welcomed me in, and it felt like I didn't have a dollar sign on my forehead, which some meetings felt like that. Yeah. And it also felt like even if no one else wanted me in town, they would still want me. It wasn't because it was a bidding war. It wasn't because this or that. They were like, no, we actually believe in you. And I remember Luke and I talked about deer hunting, and we talked about Eric Church and like just stuff that, you know, wouldn't be on the normal meeting agenda.
Yeah. I love that.
Thanks.
All right. So walk me through what happened after that led into the debut album.
Ooh, how long we got? No. I'll give you spark notes. So I signed my record deal. I spent an entire year picking a record label, because I was lucky and fortunate enough to have a bunch interested, and I wanted to be thorough, and because of my Belmont history, like, get a good deal, no like 360 anything. And so I ended up signing a year later a joint deal between Universal Nashville and Interscope LA. And then at the top of 2018, I put out my first song, California, Missouri, which is the name of my hometown. And then we had some bumps along the way because the plan was, you know, when you sign a country label deal, they want you to go to radio immediately. They're like, okay, radio single. And I was like, whoa. Like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. Like, I don't want to sing one song and have one picture for a year. Like, let me get some songs under my belt so that way when I go play these live shows, I have a real set list instead of playing stuff that's not out or playing covers. So the plan was to put 5 songs out the first year and go to radio top of 2019. Well, we hit some bumps and only like 2 songs came out in 2018. So then 2019, okay, we're going to put 5 songs out, and then 2020 we go to radio. So 2019, big year for me. We've got all the stuff. We're getting numbers. I'm on tour with Maren Morris for Girl the World Tour. All this stuff. I'm in Paper Magazine. It's going great. 2020. And we all know what happened. And it just stopped everything, which we know. But for me, especially, because it was like a pivotal, like, okay, you did these steps. We're primed and ready to go to radio, because you can't just go whenever. I mean, you can, but the likelihood of it being a success is low. And so they didn't want me to do Zoom radio tour because I was already a girl on country radio, which is a step against you. I'm already a little bit left of center, so that's another mark against you. So it was like, let's just wait. But then it got longer, and it got longer, and it got longer. And then finally, when we came out of COVID, like a year and a half later, really, when we were allowed to tour, it was like I had to start all over again, which is not cool. It's not fun. It's not fun to explain. It's not fun to go through. But it also offered some clarity in, like, I sometimes would get caught up in trends or whatever, as we all do as artists, right? You get here and you get so excited, and then you let too many people in the room to tell you what you should do or what's being done or what's cool or what's not. And so I remember making a playlist of songs that I felt like were me, like, to the core, a hill I would die on. And I remember, this is so nerdy, but I named the playlist Motorcycle Country because it was all like that bottom-ended, soulful, gritty stuff. So there was Eric Church, there was Chris Stapleton, of course there was Miranda Lambert, but it was also Amy Winehouse. It was also like some Lady Gaga on that kind of country-ish Joanne album that she did. It was like, where are the real lyrics? Where are the heavy guitars? And so we just started building off of that. And I remember when we wrote Drive You Out of My Mind, I was like, if this is not a smash, I do not know what is. Like, I'm cool. So we took it to radio. It did what it did in the landscape of country radio. It went to number 2 on the highway. Okay, we've got some movement. Okay, now there's a bunch of changeover at my label. Everything's flipping. All right, that's cool. I've been around the block now, and I know that successful people pivot. Like, if anything that you should ever know is successful people pivot. If you put your, boots in the dirt and you're stubborn and you're like, no, I am immovable, you're going to sink so fast. And so the new team, thankfully at Universal, they love me just like the old team did. And they let me start writing the album. And it felt, even though it had been so long and I had been through struggle and I had been hit by obstacle and obstacle and obstacle, I was like, the timing and the place where I am mentally and intellectually and where I am in my artistry feels so solid and so authentic that I'm happy for all of it.
That's so good.
Thanks.
Let's dive into that album.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one song off of that truly defines you as an artist to your fans, what do you think that would be?
I think it would be the title track, Made from the Dirt.
Yeah.
I wrote that with Luke Laird.
Yep.
And Oscar Charles, who Creative Nation signed a couple years ago, who was the missing third that Luke and I did not know we needed. He's incredible. He's so nerdy in the most like admirable way. He produced all the vocals and mixed it, and then Luke and I co-produced the entire album. Made from the Dirt, I remember seeing this fashion show. I was watching a live feed online, and these models were wearing this gorgeous metallic beaded industrial couture, but they were stomping through a dimly lit muddy motorcycle arena. So the hems of their dress is mud. There's mud like on their hands because the wind has they are struggling. And I remember watching it and thinking, that is so beautiful. Because if you were to put the shiny dresses on a shiny stage and everything was perfect, yeah, great. It's not real, right?
Yeah.
Where's the dust? Where's the cracks? Where's the real life of it? And then I also thought, I know the designer meant that when there's mud and when there's struggle, those dresses shine and those models shine twice as much as they would have if they would have been on a mirrored, perfect beauty pageant stage. And so I thought, I relate to that so much, because not just my journey through the music industry, but my life in general has been made up of a lot of things I had to overcome or get around or learn from or pivot from. And so I thought I was made from the crap. I was made from the dirt. But if I'm made from the dirt, I can grow as tall and as wide and as big as I want. And if I was stomped down and buried, the get back up is just 3, 4, 5 times as good. So I took that idea into Luke, and I was made from the dirt, came up from the ground, born to bloom when I get knocked down. And I remember him turning around and going, "Did you just write that?" And I go, "Yeah, like, come on, let's go." So we wrote some of it, and then we brought Oscar in because we knew we wanted it to be perfect. Because I was like, listen, this is what I want the title track to be. And so Oscar came in and he started playing that guitar sample, that little guitar that you hear on the song. And that just like made it all click in our brain. And I remember Luke said the line in the chorus, "I may be fighting, but I didn't swing first." And I just started bawling. And it felt like the first song I ever put out was California, Missouri. I will love that song till I die. Like that is like a timeless, as far as authenticity, that is a timeless song in my chest. And I feel like Made from the Dirt is like the grown up, upgraded version of California, Missouri. And so I always sing that one because if somebody at my show takes anything away from the show at all, it's this main line of empowerment and also like truth in, hey, this hasn't been all flowers, but you're damn right that I'm going to be one because I'm going to grow no matter the circumstance.
It sounds also like kind of the story of like just doing what you did before COVID just shut everything down.
Yeah.
And then rising back up again.
You have to, right? Because you're worth it.
Yeah.
You're worth everything that you could ever want. The only thing is you got to get your brain around, anything it's feeling that might hold you down. That's your worst enemy is it's not everyone else. It's are you telling yourself that you're worth it, that you can do it, that you can fight, that you can push?
Yeah.
You're good.
Love it. I want to dive into another song off that debut album, Juanita, that you wrote all by yourself.
Yeah.
So tell me about that story.
So it's number 10 on the album. It's the last one. And
hold on real quick, because I think that's important. You also wrote this album in a way that not a lot of people are doing anymore because it's all about the single game. You wrote this in a way that it's supposed to be listened from top to bottom. So let's touch on that too.
I had to spend so long putting out individual songs and everyone would ask me in interviews, they're like, "Do you just like doing that?" And I'd be like, "No, no, I'm being forced to do that. I'm a project girl."
Yeah.
Like I have a system as a fan and as a listener of music. I'll listen to something on streaming, right?
Yep.
From top to bottom. I hate the shuffle button, despise it. I wish they'd get rid of it. I listen from top to bottom. Okay, if I like it once, I download it to my library. If I listen to it, if I find myself going back and listen to it 4 or 5 times, I buy it. It's like a system of like what, levels can you get through, and then I'll purchase the entire album. And that's what I listen to. So like when you do like a Spotify, well, I use Apple Music, but like Apple Music Replay, it's like, okay, well, those are the top albums I listen to on repeat. I don't really listen to playlists or singles or whatever. And so when it came to time to make mine, I was stoked. And I tried to say in every interview and everything, hey, this is a project. Like, please listen in the order that I gave you. One song makes more sense next to all the songs around it. Like, this is not just like one little piece you can pull out and know everything. This is 10 different pieces of me as a first introduction. Juanita, number 10, my grandma, Juanita, passed away just over a year ago. She passed away on Halloween last year. She's the only grandma I've ever had. And we knew that she was going to pass away, but not as quickly as she did. And I remember we were at her house. It had to have been September, like the month before. And she pulled me to the side and she was like, hey, at my funeral. And I was like, wait. What are we doing? She's like, at my funeral, I want you to perform or play if you could record 3 songs. I'm like, we're like having a family dinner, and I'm like, oh, trying not to cry. And my grandma's like, I want it to be How Great Thou Art, In the Garden, and I want you to pick the 3rd one. I'm like, wow. I'm shaking, but I'm trying to like be chill because my grandma is like a get it done. No, like I always say she's like the salt of the earth. Like she used to tell me to pick a chicken out the kitchen window and then we'd have that chicken for dinner. Like she is the no fluff about it type of woman. And so I'm being strong because grandma's strong. And so I listened to potential funeral songs for like weeks. And I don't know if you've ever had to do that. I don't wish it upon you.
I did.
I don't wish it upon anybody. It's a horrible experience because especially as someone who's in the music industry, who's such a nerd about music, nothing is good enough for the person that you love. Even your favorite artist on the planet is not good enough. And so I thought about, 2 weeks before she passed, which I didn't know it'd only be 2 weeks. I thought I'm just going to try to write one by myself. So I went and bought a vintage rubber bridge silver tone guitar, this little guitar, and I started trying to write one. And I thought I'm going to get it done before she passes so I can play it for her and, she'll tell me what she thinks. Well, I didn't get it done.
Yeah.
And, I get the news that she passed, and I have 2 days before I have to drive back home to Missouri for the funeral. So the day after she passed, I'm sitting in my living room with this little rubber bridge, bawling. No one's in there, crying, asking the space around me, Grandma, if you're in here, can you please tell me what you want me to say? Like, this is miserable. Like, I'll do it for you, but I'm not good enough to be doing this. And so I finished it, and the next day, Luke and Beth paid for me to go in the studio and do real guitar vocals, sped it up, like, just to talk about what kind of people they are. Yeah. So Luke and I went in with Mike Stankiewicz, who is a guy that engineers all my stuff. We went in and did guitar vocals. And I was in there singing the vocal for Juanita, and I started kind of like, what, like this, like kind of giggling. Like, when did this song become so joyous sounding? I wrote a sad song, like a song of mourning. So why does this sound like a new day? And I thought, oh, that was my grandma when I asked her for help. So I start bawling, right? And then we played at the funeral, and I think that's the only time that's ever that was for my grandpa. He loved it. I'll make him a little flash drive of it. Will be good. For my grandma, that's it. So I turned it in to Creative Nation just to have like documentation that I'd written the song by myself. And Beth was like, she called me. She's like, hey, so you have to cut this, right? Like, you have to cut this song. I was like, no, like that was for grandma and grandma only. And she's like, no, your grandma like deserves to be in ink, basically. She had met my grandma many times. Beth was at my college graduation, like, you know. She's like, no, she deserves this. I'm like, I don't know. And then the head of A&R, Chelsea at UMG, she called me. She knows nothing about my grandma. She's new. She calls me and she goes, you have to cut this song. I'm like, okay, fine. And I don't have a big enough ego to not trust the people that I've decided to put around me. And so I go back in and write a bridge. What?
Pivot.
Yeah, pivot. Always, always. And so I go back in and I write a bridge, and I go into these professional studio musicians who have been playing with me forever, who are so incredible. I go in with my little rubber bridge. I play enough to play at home and write songs, but I don't play like in public. So I'm like, I'm singing it to them. I'm crying and like trying to like get through it. And I'm like, can you just make it sound like we're in a field of lilacs, because that's my grandma's favorite flower, and there's maybe like a river baptism going on, and like it feels like a new day, like it's gonna be okay. And so what you hear on the record is the first take that they did, because they killed it. I started bawling in the vocal booth, because it was like, it's like my grandma was there telling them exactly what to do, and they just got it. And to have people like that who you feel like know you but wouldn't know you that deep down do it so perfectly and in such a meaningful way, and then I had to put it as number 10. I had to put it as the last one of like Till the Lights Go Out is number 9. And it's a message of like, I'll do this till the lights go out. And I don't care if people think I'm crazy. I don't care if it's a slight mental illness that I have, that I am consumed by this career. I think we
all have a little bit of that.
Right, we have a little mental illness. We have to in order to do this job.
Yeah.
And then it was like, I told everyone that it felt like the credits. It felt like you watch the movie and you have the big thing, and then the credits roll and you sit in the theater and you just cry. And it felt like I was listening and watching to the reason I got here.
Yeah. I love that story.
Thank you
for sharing that.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by All Clear Audio. All Clear Audio is a custom and universal in-ear monitor company based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with a storefront right here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we film the Stories Behind the Songs podcast. All Clear strives to not only be the leading provider of high-quality custom and universal fit in-ear monitors, but also leads the way in customer service and care. With custom starting at dual driver all the way to 13 drivers, there's something for everyone. Head over to allclair.com, that's ALCLAIR.com, and use our code SBTSongs to receive 10% off. Thank you for the sponsorship. We love you guys at All Clear, and we hope that everyone out there listening takes advantage of this and enjoys them as well. With the way that everything's gone with your music, is there a turning point that you remember where you really felt like your songs truly resonated with your audience?
It's gotta be in the past year and a half.
Okay.
When I was on the Old Dominion tour last year, I was on the tour with them all year long. And at the beginning of the year, Drive You Out of My Mind was not out yet. But I knew it was coming out, so we put it in the set, right, to tease it. This is Drive You Out of My Mind. It comes out. I'll never forget, like, the weekend after it came out, we're on tour, and I'm singing and dancing, and there's like a double catwalk. I'm doing my thing. And I look over, and there's a whole group of girls singing it. And I remember I just stood there like, what? And then every weekend that went past, there were more people standing up in the pit, which you're one of 3 or whatever. So you're like, oh, you're standing in the pit? Like, this is cool. Standing and dancing and singing. And by the end of that tour, it was like more people than I could have ever hoped. And I remember in that same set, I sang a song called I Don't Go Back, which is one of my favorite songs I've ever written, with Luke and Hillary. And the whole, without prompting, I hate when people are like, could you get your phones up? I hate that. I'm like, that should be an organic thing that happens. And it happened to me one night on tour just because I guess that song had just hit just right for that arena full of people, and they all decide to light it up without being asked. And I just started bawling, and I thought, okay, we're doing it. We pivoted. We picked something that is as true for them as it is for me. And then that's become even more the case over and over again as the album came out, because it's a scary thing to put out a debut album, because you're like, am I getting me right? Am I getting me right? It's not, am I getting what that boardroom wants right, or those streaming people want right, or what the TikTok algorithm wants right? Am I getting me right? Because if this is the only chance I get, am I going to be cool with it? And so I felt like I did that. And then to have people look at me back like a mirror and go, no, that's just as much me as it is you. Nothing like it.
Yeah. Love it. You've gotten to already tour with a lot of great people. OD, Marin, Jamie, like,
yeah.
What, if you had one, like, what would you say your favorite time out on the road's been so far?
It's hard because I truly have been blessed, because you hear like horror stories. You do, of like, oh, I was miserable this, or this crew member, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
All my tours have been like, seriously, the crew, the band, the artist, whatever, fabulous. If I had to play favoritism, I was with Jamie Johnson this year, and I'm a huge Jamie Johnson fan. My dad is an even bigger Jamie Johnson fan than me. He's seen Jamie like 13 times, like legitimately. He just refers to him as Jamie. Even before he met him, he would never say Johnson, because he's like, duh. It's like saying Jesus. You know, you just say their first name. And I went out on the road with him, and from the first day, it was like, oh no, we're chill. There's no like weird uppity, you have to have your pass, you can't bring a visitor, you can't meet the headliner, you have to do this, you can't go in their dressing room. It was the most family-oriented, chill, real thing, right? So you start off, and the crew is cool as soon as you get there. Within 20 minutes of being there, Jamie comes into my dressing room and goes, I've waited so long for this.
Come on.
He goes, I think you're so cool. I'm literally like, he's like, you're so good. This is going to be good. We got to sing a song together on stage. What do you want to sing? And I was like, give me a minute to think. And he was so complimentative, and it was real. And like, he wasn't doing it for votes or for clout or for anything. He was just being himself. So, okay, crew's cool. Okay, artist is cool. Everything's going great. First weekend in, the crowds are so good, because he's alternative by way of like, his set isn't filled with radio hits.
Yep.
His set's not filled with tempos. It's just filled with good lyrics and a good voice and real stories. And so his crowd is a crowd that wants to hear real voices and good stories. That's it. That's what you got to do. That's the bar. And so his crowds ate it up. And I felt like an artist. I didn't feel like a circus monkey. I didn't feel like a sell the beer girl. It was like, no, they care about what I sing. And I could sing 6 slow songs in a row, and they wouldn't care as long as they were incredible. It's like, how high is your artistry bar? That's what they cared about. And it got better every weekend. And that tour kind of did something for my insides, because it kind of got me out of the rat race thing that can happen, right? You're on radio tour. Does the TikTok algorithm like your song? Can you sell the beer? Are the people wooing? Is your song fast enough? Is your song fast enough? Or is your set entertaining enough? Is it fast? Is it fast? Is it fast? Don't play any slow songs. You know, they got to be catchy lyrics, not good lyrics. They got to be catchy lyrics. And that whole tour just kind of like rewired a piece in my brain of like, no.
Yeah.
If the song is damn good and you can sing your butt off, that's it.
Yeah.
And Jamie, I remember there's like a few things he said over the course of that tour. One, we herd cats every night. It's just herding cats. He goes, and if the cats can't be herded, it ain't your fault. Like, it was just kind of like, You do your thing. If they don't fall in line, that's their business. He said, 2, everyone's the same on the road. The road treats everyone the same. So if anybody ever tries to act like that's not the case, they're assholes, basically. Because Jamie would sit outside his tour bus under a tailgate tent, and whatever I was having for dinner, he was having for dinner. And you were welcome to come sit on a tailgate tent any time of the day. Just be chill, sit back in the little, like, fold-up rocking chairs. And then when my family, my dad, my aunt, and everybody, it just... I almost cried on the last night of that tour because it was... Yeah. It just did something in here.
Yeah. What, whether it's out on the road with people like Jamie or just anything in the industry, what would you say your biggest piece of advice has been? And how has that helped shape who you are as an artist?
Barry Dean, one time, we were in a writing session writing Angels Smoke Cigarettes, which is on the album. It's number 6. Me, Luke Laird, and Lori McKenna, and Barry. Horrible room, right? No talent.
Yeah, terrible.
No Grammys, no CMAs between any of them. Barry is a very, very close friend of mine. He's like the wisest person I know. He's actually marrying me and my fiance next year. I told him once, I said, good words stick, but bad words usually stick more. If people tell you mean things about yourself or whatever, those tend to stick. I was like, but if good things stick, they usually have to be great. Like, and if I were to tally up all the great things that have ever stuck in my brain, especially the past 7 years, most of them were from you. And, you know, we were just doting on each other and whatever. But in the writing room, the day we wrote Angel Smoke Cigarettes, I was frustrated at myself because I was tired of my melodies or my lyrics or whatever. I was tired of hearing myself. I was like, someone else, please put their creative spark out there because mine's just not lit today. And he said, what you do, you can't get wrong and no one else can copy. And I just was like... Man. Oh my God. Like, how did you just say that I am the blueprint? Like, I am my own blueprint. And nothing I do is wrong because it's me doing it. Yeah. And no one's ever going to copy what I do because they're not me. And it was just this, that has stuck with me all the time of just like, trust your artistry, trust your taste, trust your God-given talent.
Similarly, what kind of advice would you give somebody else that's moving to town? Maybe a listener that wants to be a writer, wants to be an artist. Yeah. What would you tell them?
Get out of the box. Don't try to put yourself in the box. Don't try to copy what's being written on radio because it's already done and the people that wrote that song are moving on to something else. Don't think that you have to be anything else. Don't think you have to go in and say, I first started singing in church and I wear boots and you don't have to say any of that. You are who you are, and that's great. One of my favorite quotes of all time is Abraham Lincoln's, whatever you are, be a good one. And I just think that that's the best piece of advice you can give. You don't have to put some Nashville twist on it. You don't have to like write the song in a way that you've heard on the radio. Just be real. That's the whole point. And as soon as you start cutting little pieces of yourself away in order to fit in that box, you're not special anymore and no one's going to care. And then suddenly you're in the gray area. Nobody cares about the gray area. No one cares. It's not remarkable. It's just not. So just lean into exactly who you are. Speak your truth and say it in only the way that you can, and you'll be good to go.
Do you have any idea how brilliant you are?
Thank you.
I mean, seriously, I've gotten to sit down and talk to a lot of people, and I've had the listening room for over 20 years now, and just have met so many people that are where you are in your career right now or not even that far.
Thanks.
And the knowledge that you have of how this town works and what makes success is really awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. Thank you. That means welcome. A lot.
So let's talk about what's next. You've got some cool stuff coming up.
Yeah. We're in the land of put that music out, baby. Thank God, because it was so long when I would have to pull. It was so long that I would have to pull teeth, to get things scheduled and to get the right buttons pushed. But it's the time of all the music, right? I don't mind when a fan's like, "What's next? What did you not cut? What do you have?" I'm like, "Oh, just wait. I have a whole pot of sauce just coming for you." I'm writing. I'm recording. All the good stuff is coming at the top of the year. I go on tour with John Party in April. He is such a good friend of mine, and I actually am a huge fan of his music. So that tour is going to be such a good time. And I'm just next year trying to play for as many people as I can. My suitcases are open and ready, and they're already full most of the time. But if you just want to put me in a box and ship me off, tell me where and when to sing, I'm good to go.
Yeah. By the way, John is similar to Jamie, I feel like, in that way. Like John, I went out on the road with John and Lainey, was that year and a half, 2 years ago?
Yeah,
something like
2
that?
years ago, yeah.
Went out on the road with those guys, and it was the same thing. Like, it was in between the buses was like the tailgate area, and it was like, he is the artist. It's not going to go sit on his bus or go to a hotel room away from everybody. Nope. It's like, this is where we all are. Let's hang out.
Yes. I've been to his house before. His wife, Summer, is a good friend of mine. So it's really going to feel like I'm just going camping with my friends, and we just happen to be singing at the end of the day. It's going to be so good. And I just know that if his crew is anything like John, everyone's going to be just the most cool but professional fun. I'm looking forward to it. There's a lot of dates, and I'm itching.
Yeah, that's going to be so awesome. We'll have to try to align dates, and I'll come out.
Yeah, you should. Let me know. I'll get you a ticket.
Let's talk about C2C.
Oh yeah, I forgot. Good thing you brought it up. Yeah, so I'm playing C2C in March for half of March, which I love it. I'm add more dates. It'll be my third time going over there to play, and I love it. It's kind of like the Jamie thing, because their crowds over there, I don't know what they, put in their water, what kind of Wheaties they eat for breakfast, but they care about what you're saying. And when you sing, they shut up. You don't have to ask. Obviously if you're captivating, they shut up, but they just shut up in general.
Yeah.
They want to hear what you're saying. And I adore the crowds over there. I am if I could go over there twice a year and play, I would do it. Just because aesthetically it's so beautiful to be over there, and it just feels, Scotland is my favorite place in the world. Beautiful. Because it's so dark and old and gorgeous, and that's my whole thing. But the crowds over there, and they always, a pivotal artist in my life's discography is Amy Winehouse. I remember when she came on the scene, I was obsessed with her. It's all I played all the time. And every time I go over there, they're like, you're like a country Amy Winehouse. You're like a country Amy Winehouse. And I just most of the time when people say you're like this or you're like this person, I'm like, yeah, okay, cool. It's because I have dark hair. It's because whatever, that's fine. Whatever helps you connect, I'm cool with that. But they say Amy Winehouse in my head, just I have to take a pin just to pop my head, because I'm it's the biggest compliment I could receive. And it just feels good to play over there because they care and they're so excited to hear you, because they don't get it like we get it over here. They don't have it all the time in any nook and cranny and little bar you can have it.
Yeah. If you weren't doing music, what would you be doing?
Trying to do music. No. If I wasn't doing music, it would have to be because I had no musical talent.
It's just in you.
Yeah, it's just in me. But if I think I would be designing clothes.
Really?
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
I love art.
Yeah.
I just love art. I love to create. If I could live in a metaphorical cave and just make art all day long and not have to come out of the cave, I would love that. That's when I'm happiest, is when I just get to use my hands. So anything around that, but I think specifically the lane of clothing, just because what you can do for a person and their confidence and their everything and the light within them by just putting them in clothes. I think it's like one of the most empowering things is my outfit will speak for me even when I'm too shy or I'm too scared or I'm too vulnerable to speak.
Yeah. Okay, I have to hit on this.
Yeah.
And full transparency, I can't get into a deep discussion with this because I don't even really know what it all means.
That's okay.
But Savannah on our team is like big into Enneagram and anything out there like that.
Yes.
And I know you've talked about before, you're Enneagram 4. I'm a 3 wing 2.
Okay.
Whatever that means, just because I had to take the test on a retreat that we did.
Right.
So how did you get into that? And do you think that Enneagram 4, like, do you think that that ties into the way that you make music and the way that you look at your artist?
Yeah. One, I'm obsessed with the Enneagram, so shout out Savannah.
She's going to love that.
Because it helps me see people from their point of view instead of mine. Because I think if you look at people and their decisions and what they say or their emotions from your point of view, you're going to disagree with them because they're not you. But if you look at it from their perspective and who they are as a person and why they are that way and what drives them or motivates them or turns them away, it's so much easier to be open to that and kind of see them for them instead of see them as you. I literally use Enneagram when I pick band members. When people audition to be in the band, they of course have to play amazing and they have to answer some questions, in a certain, guideline of answers, and I ask them their Enneagram. I know all my team's Enneagram because I know why it works and I know why it doesn't. Also, it's great for gift giving because all the Enneagrams like different kinds of gifts. I am a 4. 4s on the Enneagram. So the Enneagram is made up of 3 triads. And within the triad, there's three types in each triad. Within the triad, one wants to do it the most inwardly, one wants to do it the most outwardly, and one wants to avoid it. So the 2, 3, and 4 is the feeling triad. So 2s have the most inward feelings, 4s have the most outward feelings, and 3s want to avoid it. I'm a 4-wing 3, by the way, so if it sounds like I'm offending a 3, I'm talking to myself as well. 4s are the individualist. So 4s were usually emotionally abused as children, and so they're the most artistic on the spectrum because that's how they got their emotions out. Not that you can't be artistic as another type, but usually if you meet someone who's deeply artistic, they're a 4, like all day long. They also believe that no one is like them and that no one will ever understand every speck of their being because how could they? And 4s tend to be a bit pessimistic because their inner worlds are so thick and so rich and their imagination is so large that everything outside of that just does not measure up.
Yeah.
3s are the performer. So 3s will put on any mask in order to win. So usually class clowns are 3s because they're like, no, I'm the performer. Anybody who is usually the center of the party is a 3. They know how to entertain. They know how to joke. They know how to make people fall in love with them. And then 2s are like the mom of the group, and they don't want to talk about their feelings. They have a lot, but they don't want to talk about them. They go in the room and try to find the most broken so that they can help them and love on them and fix them, but in return be the most loved for doing that. And I always say that I make a joke that I'm a rat girl who just lives in a cave and wants to perform, wants to like create in my little like dark hole and then scurry out into a spotlight, get my trophy and run back to my dark room. And I always joke that the Enneagram 4 is me in the dark room, just like making all my stuff and writing my little sad songs and sewing the dresses. And then the Enneagram 3 is I run out on stage into the spotlight. I grab my trophy. I make somebody laugh. And then I run back into my little dark corner. And it just makes so much sense. And it kind of, as a human, if you if you get into the Enneagram and you read about yourself so much that it's offensive, it kind of makes you feel not cuckoo. Because you're like, that thing about me is not weird. It's just literally who I am as a person.
Yeah.
Or that thing about that person is not weird. It's just how they are, or how they learn to cope, or how they learned to get through the things that they've gone through.
Yeah. I think it's so cool that you do that with your band members. It's so brilliant. Again, just you're very smart for where you are in life. And you're going to be like living on a bus with these dudes. And if you don't get along, they could be the best guitar player in town. And
yep.
Then you're like, oh, this is not going to work after 2 weeks.
Take a little note of like, try to offend yourself with your answers. Not who you want to be. Answer as who you are.
Yeah.
I won't see your answers. I'm not going to whatever, but the number at the end is helpful. And there are no bad numbers. There are no bad types. There are no bad wings. It's just, if I know that my bass player is a 2, my drummer is a 3, my guitar player is a 6, I know what each type is, so I can't, if you're an 8 on the Enneagram, I have to make sure what kind of 8 you are, you're going to clash with my drummer. And my drummer means a lot to me, and I'm not going to deal with confrontation. So it just helps.
Stories behind the songs, Enneagram.
Enneagram. Yeah. We must know your personality so that we can all get along.
Oh, that's so good. Kassi, thanks for sharing your story.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Last question, always end with this.
Yes.
If you can go back to Missouri, 8-year-old you,
okay,
what advice do you give yourself today?
What does my 8-year-old give me, or what do I give my 8-year-old?
What would you give today, to the
8-year-old
give
me?
yourself at 8 years old?
You're going to get everything you've ever wanted. So do not listen to a damn person besides yourself and all that bad stuff at home and all that bad stuff at school. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. And that sentence that you say over and over in your head, I'm a superstar. That's all that matters. I'm a superstar. That's all that matters. You damn right.
Love it.
Thank you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
We will put links to all of your music and everything in the liner notes. And can't wait to come see you out on the road with John.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. You've been listening to Kassi Ashton. This is another episode of Stories Behind the Songs, and we will see you next time. Thank you for listening to another episode of Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair. Make sure to give us a follow on Spotify if you enjoyed this episode, and make sure you click that notification button so you can keep notified when new episodes come out. We release brand new episodes every Tuesday, and you can find us on YouTube at Stories Behind the Songs with Chris Blair or anywhere you listen to podcasts. Don't forget to send us a comment letting us know what you thought of the episodes. We love getting your feedback, and share this with your friends. The more we grow, the more that we can keep doing this. It's our mission to bring you all of these great stories behind the songs from some of Nashville's most iconic artists and songwriters, publishers, producers, everyone in between, and a lot of my great friends. We love what we do, and we love sharing their stories with you. We appreciate all of the continued support. Thanks also to all of our sponsors, and we will see you all next week.